Where have you been in Africa? Tell me about it. Yeah, yeah. Where have you been in Africa? It's something I wanna know. Yes, I do. Africa's a lovely world, full of beauty and treasures to tell. Where have you been in Africa? I wanna know. Yeah. Where have you been in Africa? Tell me about it. Yeah, yeah. I want you to tell me a bit about Africa. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want you to tell me where you've been in Africa. Tell me. I want you to tell me where you've been in Africa. Yeah, 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 yeah. I want you to tell me where you've been in Africa. In a post-COVID world where tourists are learning and adapting new ways to safely travel and tour different parts of the world, one tourist highlights his travel experiences in Africa since when he was a boy. The creative director of Nosono Gallery and Edo Global Hub, Enotie Ogbebor, answers a star question. Where have you been in Africa? Also dubbed WHYBIA, which is the name of this YouTube channel.
I've been to South Africa, Cape Town and Joburg. I've been to Kenya, Ethiopia. I've been to Cameroon. I've been to Côte d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, Egypt. I've been to Egypt as well.
Why did you visit those countries?
Well, some of them I went because my father took me as a child. First time I visited Egypt, I was about 10 or 11 years old.
Okay.
So rode on the back of a camel into the desert, was guided into a pyramid in Giza, went dining on the Nile, went to the temple of Luxor, saw the statue of Ramses, and went to the museum in Cairo. It was quite an eye-opening experience because after Egypt, we went to Greece. So one was able to see what has come out from Africa with the juxtaposed against the best that had come out of Europe. And I was really proud.
Is that when you also visited the other countries?
As an adult, I went to South Africa as an adult to go on holiday.
Okay.
So I took opportunity to go to a safari at Lukumbi Park.
Okay.
Lukumbi Park is a huge games reserve, stretches for hundreds of hectares, or thousands of hectares, and it's very rich. What they've done is they've created an environment which is very African. The architecture of the buildings was very well done, and from your room, you had a clear view across a river. And you could see elephants, you could see all sorts of things, and then you could go on a safari ride and you see other wild animals in their natural habitat.
Sure.
I think that is. And then the way the people who run the park, the kinds of bonfire dinners, the kinds of outdoor camping and entertainment and singing, I think it all made it very colorful and a rich, wonderful experience.
What stood out the most for you as a tourist in Africa?
The culture sites in Egypt were very, very powerful reminders of what a human spirit is capable of. Mm-hmm. So I think the sheer size of the pyramids in Giza, the temple in Luxor, the sheer size of the statue of Ramses. So when you think that these things were done thousands of years ago by people who were able to bring about a watershed in the history of civilization of mankind on Earth, I think that was the most impactful And then I think also to see, when I visited South Africa, two things came to mind. One was to see how the African environment, which normally would be seen as problematic or harsh or had been very well manicured and developed in South Africa. Facilities, infrastructure. And then you now juxtapose it against nature, the way they now preserve nature on the games reserves, where you can see these wild animals in their natural habitat without you disturbing their pattern of life, and then you're able to admire them, see how they live, and see how this can be organized side by side. So you do not have to wipe out the entire animal population for any reason, and you do not have to destroy the environment through pollution or whatever for any reason as well. I mean, so I think it was a very healthy mix that I experienced there. Same thing with Kenya, because I went on a safari in Kenya, and it was amazing to see all these animals as well. And then you look out around everywhere, people running the business or who are running the events are Africans. So it shows you what any human being is capable of doing if they address their minds to it.
What things would you prefer African tourism practitioners do differently?
I think we need to change our mindset and begin to realize that tourism is a huge industry. And it is an industry that you don't happen to develop. A conscious effort has been made to develop it. A lot of our languages and a lot of our traditions and our culture are getting lost because of this adaptation of foreign cultures. And I think if we change our mindset and begin to recognize that what we have is unique and it puts us in a comparative advantage position when you compare it to what is prevalent everywhere else in the world. So we can't just leave it in raw form. Now it has to be refined, repackaged, and then showcased. So with this, you add value to what you're doing. You don't want a situation where people come, and I think a lot of people make mistakes about our culture and our tradition, even Africans. We seem to think that the Africa that we experienced or that we are experiencing, post-colonial Africa that we are experiencing, is the original Africa. It's not true. The Africa we have today is a corruption, if you like, of what the real African was. Because now you have a situation where you have this new generation of Africans who have no recollection of how their ancestors lived. They were brought up in colonial times. They were taught that their culture and their tradition is detrimental. And then they were taught Western culture as a replacement. But it's alien to us, and if we were to rediscover what had been on the ground here when you talk about culture and tradition, you'll find out that, I mean, it all can't be good, just like all Western culture can't be good.
Exactly.
So we just pick what is positive, and then we propagate it. But we are stuck with the colonial model. We have not looked into it to say, is this suitable? Is this working for us? How can we enhance what we are doing by looking at what we're doing originally? Because before we're told, oh, you need to drink, you don't have to be breastfed exclusively, you need to drink milk, cow and gate, blah, blah, blah. And after a while, they are now back and say, oh, exclusive breastfeeding is the best, this and that, you must eat vegetables, you must eat this. These are the things we were doing before. Now they tell us oil palm is good, it cleanses your arteries. But in the 60s and 70s, they said, oh, cholesterol, bad cholesterol, don't eat it. But they take it, change to soap, change to all kinds of things, and sell it back to us. So, and that's how it is for everything. Our culture is being repackaged and sold back to us. Our traditions are being repackaged and sold back to us. We need to take charge of our narrative and tell the stories ourselves. You can see the impact of Nollywood. You can see the impact of our music industry. So this is what we need to do for our tourism. When people come, we need to dedicate money to developing infrastructure for tourism. We need to dedicate money to to maintaining old and ancient culture sites. We need to develop money, to set money aside to develop what you call language banks, because lots of languages are getting lost. There's so many ethnic minorities. So in all of this, we need to really develop archives and infrastructure that will showcase our culture and tradition from our perspective.
Which other places do you intend to visit in Africa?
I would like to go to Gambia. I would like to go to Senegal. I would like to go to Morocco, Algeria. I would like to go to Rwanda. And I would like to go to Zimbabwe, Botswana. I think pretty much go around Africa. The Seychelles, Mauritius.
Yeah. Which is your favorite African destination?
I like South Africa. What
do you like most about South Africa?
The thing about South Africa is they've interwoven tourism into every facet of our lives. Like if you visit the wine country and the sellers and the producers and all of that, you get to take a tour, you get to see how they produce the wine, you get to do tasting, you just get to have a beautiful experience. And then if you talk about Cape Town, going up to Table Mountain and seeing these wonderful views, the V&A, there are lots of museums, there are galleries, there are lovely restaurants, there are a plethora of hotels, there are shopping malls, there are good roads, constant electricity. And the people are trained to be, unfortunately, you keep hearing about xenophobia and all these attacks on Nigerians and all of that. But I think they've developed their tourism industry to the point where you can really have a nice time, either in Johannesburg or in Cape Town or in other parts you might want to go to.
What 5 tips would you give a first-time traveler to prepare for a blissful travel experience as a tourist?
My suggestions are: 1, before you leave your country, you should plan your itinerary online. Lots of resources online now, so you can book your hotels, you can look at the various places you can visit, and so you can plan your itinerary properly and look at what it will cost, so your budget is right, so you don't get stranded. And then you need to pack the proper clothing. Then you need to ensure that you don't fall into a typical tourist trap when you get to where you're going to. And then I would say also enjoy yourself very well by experimenting with food. Taste your food. Yeah, it's a very lovely way to meet people, to know people, to understand people through their food. And then, be mindful of the fact that if you're a shopaholic and you go on holiday, if you have packed a big box, you're not going to have any space to put stuff. So go with minimal clothing or minimal items, so that when you get there, if you want to shop, you can have space to carry these things.